So outdoor practice. A couple more definitions we go with because these are some great stuff that I got from some people a lot smarter than me. Degeneracy is, it sounds like a bad word, but it's not. There's multiple ways to do things. In motor learning, degeneracy means there's multiple ways to do things, right? And we've seen it, right? Look at I don't know if any of you guys saw that cool social media post, but the social media post about the Tampa Bay pitching staff and how they all came from different arm slots. Like literally it was like a clock, right? Degeneracy, multiple ways to do things, multiple ways to skin a cat here. There's no such, here's the tricky part that coaches have a tough time with. There's no such thing as fundamentals. They're called attractors, okay? So fundamentals are a myth because if you look at how people move, is no two skills are ever the same, okay? And I've got here the degrees of freedom problem. The degrees of freedom problem is this. If I'm going to pitch, I've got hip joints that need to be able to synchronize. I've got my shoulder, I've got my elbow, I've got my wrist. All of those things, my hips alone have 3 planes of movement. My shoulder has 3 planes of movement. My elbow has 1 plane of movement. My wrist has 2 planes of movement. That's just the planes of movement. And all of a sudden, we can all use different pathways to get that pitch done. It's hard. And if you measure anything from motion capture, you realize no two skills are ever identical, ever. It's impossible. So to understand that fundamentals aren't really a thing that's the toughest part for coaches to digest. But what they're called is attractor states. And if you look underneath, it's stability in multiple scenarios. So if you think about fielding a ground ball, yes, we think there's fundamentals. That's a stability, is if you give them the idea of, okay, I'm going to hit this ground ball to you. I need you to pick it up without me telling you. Over the course of time, what are they going to do? They're going to figure out to get their butt low to get low enough to see the ball and their glove at the same time so they can adjust to balls, right? Or move their feet depending on what lane they're in or what hop they're taking, right? But if you're giving them an environment where they can attune to that and be athletes, you're not limiting them. You're expanding their ability to be a great player. Okay. So again, variability, not just to be used just because it creates stability in the system. So the more variability we give these kids, if all we give them is hands drills with their partner and the partner feeds them lazily, and that's all the ground ball work they get for a day, there's no variability there. It's the same hops every time, maybe off a gym floor, even worse. So the hops are always the same. There's no variability there. We don't create adaptable systems. We want adaptable people. Okay. So we want to put them in scenarios where they come to these attractor states on their own. Okay. And I have a good slide about that in a second. I love this quote. So Franz Bosch is like the leading athlete, motor learning guy in the world right now. The body doesn't care what coach has to say. I love that. You can tell a kid until you're blue in the face to do something. He might not be physically capable of doing it. Your body doesn't care what your coach has to say at all. Okay. So we're in a scenario here where we've got to put these kids, put them in an environment where they can adjust, right, to the variability, and they become more adaptable. Now we're in a scenario where they're going to optimize their performance based on what they're the best at. Okay, and at the bottom there, movement is about stability, not postures. Okay, and I have a perfect slide for that. Okay, and that's coming up. So here, we've all fallen in love with the picture at the top. Those are postures. And for the longest time, pitching coaches have followed that because that comes from research. It comes from articles, right? And they're like, okay, we got to get those kids into those positions. We got to get them to that balance point, knee up. I got to get them to foot contact. I got to have that arm up, all of that stuff. But look at the pictures below. I got Gibson, I got Koufax, and I got DeGrom. They ain't stopping. They ain't worried about those postures. They're being as athletic as possible. All right? Right? You got Gibson throwing gas. You got Sandy Koufax with Uncle Charlie over there, and you got DeGrom throwing that absolute noise. Those are attractor states. They were given the ability to become adjustable on the mound. It's a repeatable delivery, 100%. But look at Gibson on the left, right? No one teaches that nowadays, right? Because we want kids to be robotic. We want to teach postures, right? He's stable within the important parts. I bet you if we took a still picture with his front foot down, his arms in the right spot, but nobody taught him to do that. They gave him the ability to be an athlete, and he found that attractor state on his own. Okay.